And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, a call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioner Business meeting this October 29th, 2015. I'll ask our County Administrator, Mr. Krupp, to take the roll.
Oh, good morning, Commissioners. We are joined this morning with Mr. Stephen Madcore, County Counsel, and also to my left, Mary Rathke, our Clerk of the Board. So I'll start with the roll. Commissioner Bernard. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here, you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first thing we have on our agenda is a presentation, Mr. Krupp.
Yes, we are joined this morning with Mr. Bob Vroman, our very esteemed County Assessor. He's here to give you a report on the 2015 property tax rolls.
Are those pumpkins on his tie?
They are. Let's see, is this on, Mary? Okay. Chair Ludlow, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning and tell you a little bit about what's been happening with assessment and taxation in Clackamas County. October 7th, we completed this year's tax roll, the 2015-16 tax year, and certified it. Last Thursday and Friday, we mailed just shy of 172,000 tax statements and value notices. And so our office has gotten immediately busy this past week. Along with the tax statements, we always include an insert, and that insert includes a lot of information which we hope will be helpful to our citizens and our property owners. Mary has our website up right now, and I'll direct you to where some of this information is. But what I wanted to talk about and highlight today are a few things that we do include, not only in that insert, but in a press release that goes out, but that we also make available online at the county's website. And some of those things would include, certainly, payment options and how people can make payments for their property tax. And if Mary, if you would go to the what's new for this tax year and kind of scroll down. We'll go to what we'll find is, please keep going. We're right here. We're going to have due dates, appeals, paying your taxes, and payment options. Now, people can actually stop in the office and make payments. We have drop boxes that we have in front of our building, and we actually have a drive-through now where people can just drive by, drop off a payment. They can make payments online. A lot of people now are also making payments through their own own banks and payment services. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people to be able to make payments. I do want to talk a little bit about due dates, because this is a really unusual tax year. I don't think I can remember a tax year where the dates have fallen the way they fall for this year. Normally, our taxes are always due on the 15th, November 15th, February 15th, and then May 15th if you're paying in thirds. However, this year, our November payment is due the 16th because the 15th falls on the weekend. The February payment is also pushed back to the 16th because it falls on a holiday. Monday is a holiday. And then the May payment falls on the weekend. So we have all three payment due dates this year actually being November, February, and May 16th as opposed to 15th. Kind of what happened around the county this year? Well, I don't think it'll be any surprise that we're in a really, really active real estate market. And the total value of all of our real property and personal property in Clackamas County grew 10.5%, went from $51 billion in value to $56 billion. And our assessed value went from $42.3 billion to $44.3 billion, up 4.7%. So we've had a very active market. Values are up. That's being reflected in assessed values. And our tax roll this year is actually up almost 6% from $285 million to we're at 726, 684 to 726 million dollars this year. So we have a 6% growth, and that growth is a result really of certainly the increase in assessed value, which comes under our property tax system, new construction, and new money measures. So things have been very active. You can see presented to you on the screen right now is where that property tax dollar goes. And you can see this year that out of every dollar that we collect in property taxes in Clackamas County, a little more than 41 cents goes to schools, K through 12. And if you add the community college and the education service district to that, it's actually almost 48 cents. So a good part of what property owners are paying today in taxes does go for schools, and the remainder is then divided up between the county, cities, fire districts, and our various service districts. It's an interesting year. There's a lot of discussion going on about the impact of this rising real estate market, because it's certainly creating issues with affordability. And I think probably most succinctly in the last several months, you've probably heard a lot about the issue with being able even to find property that can be rented. So affordable housing continues to be a very critical issue, not only in Clackamas County, but in the Portland metropolitan area in general. And I know that's something that you've had great concerns about, and it's certainly something that we're seeing that's being impacted very definitely by a very active real estate market. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Before we go to that, though, if I could have Mary go back up to our main screen, I just would like to encourage everyone to take an opportunity, go to the county's website, go to our homepage at Assessment and Taxation, and you'll find that there's a tremendous amount of information now that we're making available to everyone, from what's happening with values and taxes, as well as programs that are available for citizens, how our system works, and hopefully it's there and helps answer questions that, that people may have. And we always welcome people to either stop in the office or give us a call if they have a question. So with that, I'll let you ask questions that you may have.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Bob. Very nice report. And, you know, it's always nice, I guess, if we have more revenue, but I tend to think it happens on the backs of our hardworking citizens, and we're dependent on them being able to pay the tax bill. I want to talk about business assessments for a minute. Whereas the home market, we all know, is just almost exploding out there and property values are rising. I want to ask how our business properties are assessed, especially when you have a business where the building is your business. Can you talk to me about value versus cost, and how do you determine that?
Well, generally, commercial and industrial property, which are our business properties, are valued on an income approach. And so it's a method that, that weighs the income that that particular property can produce over a period of time. And it's generally the method that investors and developers and property owners use to calculate a value for their property as an income producing property. So we take the net income that it can generate as if it were rented for the use that it will be put to, and then we capitalize that net income into a value.
So who determines the net income?
We actually get that information from property owners.
And what if they show a negative balance? Let's say it's a new business, it's a startup, and all of their first 2 or 3 years in business, which I've experienced this, you know, it just goes to paying payroll and your debt. And a lot of businesses don't show a profit in the first several years, but like you say, they're taxed on their income, and their income does not necessarily equate to any profit whatsoever. They're just keeping their heads above water, and there are a lot of businesses out there right now in this situation.
Well, I want to be really clear and make a differentiation between a business valuation versus a property valuation. A real property valuation is dependent upon, again, the income that that property can produce if it were leased or rented and put to the use that it's designed for. That's a lot different than a business valuation, looking at how a business is doing and whether it's making a profit or not. Two different approaches entirely, and we're trying to value the property, not the business.
But by looking at income, you are valuing the business. Where do you get the notion to do this type of valuation? Where does it come from?
This is just a generally accepted appraisal approach to valuing income-producing property.
Is it something that isn't currently in our ZDOs that we say we are going to tax businesses that way?
It's currently in state law.
Okay.
And it's the generally, it would be very similar to when you talk to a CPA to some extent about generally accepted accounting principles. This is a generally accepted appraisal methodology that's used to value income-producing type properties, and it's used in the public sector as well as the private sector.
So I have a business, and it's a bed and breakfast, and it's a very large old home. So my property taxes are and my assessment is valued on how much income you think I can produce.
No, it would be valued based on what we think that property could produce.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Well, no, not the business, not your business of renting out rooms necessarily to someone that might be wanting to stay at a bed and breakfast type business. It's based on what that building could be rented to someone that wanted to do that kind of business.
Bob, that's a very, very fine line because there's only one pot of money in a business. We don't get another pot of money over here that says, this is what my business produces, and then another pot of money over here says, well, this is the valuation of my real property. It just doesn't correlate and add up in real life practices is what I'm saying. And I guess what I want to further say is I want a study session on how we value businesses in this county with those principles that you have in mind, because I think that we are on the precipice of we're trying to retain businesses, we're trying to bring new businesses into this county. But we also can't be so overzealous that the tax bills are out of sight. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I own real property in a couple different businesses. I see what happens is, in particular, there's a new business in Clackamas County that's 3 years old, and they have paid $500,000 in property taxes for the last 3 years. They have appealed their property taxes through our means of doing so, and they have been rejected every time. When the owner says, I can't sell it for what you're assessing it at. So I want to circle back around, and I really want to hit this issue and try to really narrow down what we're doing to ourselves as far as assessments going up and the ability to pay, and before we get overzealous, oh boy, we have more money to spend. We need to be mindful of how we get that money. Just saying.
Yeah. I would welcome having a session, because I want to make sure that it would be clearly understood that we're really talking about the valuation of two different things when we're talking about business valuation versus real property valuation. And I think that that's a very important difference for everyone to understand, because we're actually not even able to approach the value of property based on the business valuation. We have to strictly approach it as real property valuation, and I'd be happy to have that kind of a discussion. I think it would be very productive.
And I look forward to it too, Bob, because you're always so insightful and very articulate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bernard.
Oh, are you still doing the community outreach that you've done in the past?
I certainly am in both our insert and on the website. It has the listing of town halls that we're doing. I've already been to Gladstone, Damascus, and Milwaukee. I'll be in Lake Oswego this afternoon. Actually, we've added one this year. And if you can scroll all the way down, the dates and the days are listed a couple of different ways. We've added one, and we're going to host one at our Development Services Building next Monday at 7 p.m. And so we're hoping that we will be able to attract citizens from all areas of the county. And I think the benefit of having it here is that we'll have a number of my staff that'll be available to them directly. We'll also have access to all the information we have on properties and the taxes that might be impacting their property. So hopefully we can answer questions that night for people.
Yeah, I've attended some of those, and I recommend that people attend those meetings, because it really does help you understand the system, and it's not simple. Oregon's tax system, 5 and 50, has made a lot of changes that make it more complicated. I used to tell the story that my neighbor, who didn't protest his property taxes when 5 or 50 passed, tax bill was twice as high as mine because I protested, and they adjusted it, and then when 5 or 50 came in, I forget which one, your level was down and his level was up. So there wasn't much he could do about it. This was in Portland, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's important that future measures may have an impact. And so if you're not satisfied that your rate is proper, it makes sense to appeal it. And I think I have appealed my property taxes probably 3 times. And generally speaking, you know, there has been some adjustment. And so I appreciate the hard work you do in those town halls. If you can attend, please go, because they're very valuable.
Commissioner Schrader.
So, Bob, when we look at this business tax structure, and I understand the difference between valuation of property versus valuation of business, because I know that there are professional corporate organizations out there that actually do the work of valuing businesses, particularly when there's going to be an exchange of a business. But my question is, you know, we keep talking about business, but there's a difference between the larger traded sector folks, or actually medium-sized traded sector folks, and the mom-and-pop businesses. Is there some analysis to, this may be a question for our economic development folks, because I think they do a business inventory and that would tell us size, scope, and where these businesses are in the food chain, because the larger traded sector really is the bottom of the pyramid, and then you go up to the smaller, you know, different various businesses that will often support the economy that a traded sector business is really driving in an area. So I think size of businesses and getting some definition of whether we're talking about traded sector, corporate, mom and pop, medium-sized businesses that are about to do that hop into a larger export-import milieu might be a part of something, colleagues, I suggest that we take a look at, because I think it's pretty complex. And, you know, the smaller businesses, having run a farm, having had someone run a veterinary business with 11 people is a different size and scope than Pioneer Pump, for example, and how you evaluate those kinds of things. And so when we talk about business, I think we have to also keep in mind size and scope. So that was just a comment. But my question is, with your payment methods, there's been a lot of technological advances in terms of how you make payments. And I have seen people in the private sector make payments, whipping out their cell phone, pressing a few buttons, and it's done. Are you moving towards that in any way, shape, or because I have tried to pay online, and I have to admit, it was a little challenging sometimes. So is that something you might want to look at and have some?
Actually, Commissioner Schrader, we are looking at that, and one of our strategic results, because we've been involved in the county's strategic planning process, is to what I would envision is being similar to what you would find in the private sector when you go to one of the people that you may do business with and are able to manage your own account. That's
exactly, yeah.
That's exactly what we would like to kind of get to. And we're making some progress. But along the way, the payment process, it gets complicated, especially when you're dealing with our financial institutions and our credit card companies and the tax laws that we have that deal with collections. What we have today is a service where someone can actually go online through their own computer and make a payment through a service provider, which for Clackamas County is U.S. Bank. And it can be economical and it can be very convenient, but if someone is going to pay with a credit card, it will also be somewhat expensive because they're going to be charged what would be equivalent to a merchant fee in order to make that payment. And we really struggle in some ways in dealing with the payment process. And I know our county treasurer actually is looking, I think right now, at payment processes around the county to see if we can't, make some changes that will benefit the way we're able to do some of these things. To give you an example, if you pay with a credit card, it's going to cost you 2.5% of the amount as a convenience fee. If you pay with a Visa debit card, it's going to cost you $3. If you pay with a MasterCard debit card, it's going to cost you the 2.49% convenience charge. If you pay with an electronic check, which actually in many ways is the most convenient for a lot of people, it's going to cost you $3. So it's complicated, it's confusing, but in many ways it's driven by the finance industry around our country, and we sort of struggle with working within the rules that they have out there within which we can operate.
And I do have one final question. I noticed there was a button on the overhead is gone, but there was one that talked about veterans exemptions. Could you, and we have folks that come here speaking to that issue quite a bit. Can you clarify it is veterans
Certainly,
exemptions? So
we can actually if Mary would click on that, it'll bring up some information.
Top left, Mary.
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, she's got it.
No, it's right up under the blue assessment
Active
taxation.
military.
The button there.
Well, there's two different ones. This is the veterans tax exemption right here, and this is for veterans that are 40% or more disabled, and they can qualify for a reduction in their assessed value as a result of that. There's a filing deadline, April 1st. We encourage, and I talk about this when I go out and do town halls, because we encourage not only people that are veterans, but if we have people that are attending that know veterans or have family that are veterans, or know people who are spouses of veterans that have passed away, because they may qualify for this particular reduction in their property tax. So we have information available online. We encourage people to call the office, and we're more than happy to try to help our veterans take advantage of this particular exemption. There's also another exemption that's available, which is an active duty military exemption. So our veterans or our residents and property owners that are currently members of the armed forces and are on duty, they can actually qualify for an exemption up to $80,000, of a little bit more than that, of their assessed value. So again, we try to get the word out, and we certainly encourage not just people that are veterans, but if you know veterans that may not know about this particular exemption, to contact our office.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Mary, if you could pull up the dollar bill, portion of his site that had the dollar bill on there. And then while Mary's doing that, I want to go back, it's kind of critical, I think, just to make sure. I appreciate Commissioner Smith's concern about that. I have concerns, but I think it's important to clarify for those members in the audience and those that are watching this at home, is that, I'm going to make this comparison. Tell me, and I'm not going to exact particulars, but if there is, I want to help people understand this. There is a property owner that has let's say a commercial property. He's got 2 buildings on there that he leases to 2 different tenants, and they're both the exact same size building, and the amenities around there are identical, but one business in there does $50,000 a year in annual sales, and the other one does $50 million annual sales. The tax on that property, or the income, that's not even factored in. The income of those businesses isn't factored in. It's the factor of what those businesses will garner for rents or leases because of an income-producing property. That's a simplistic analysis. Is that close to what you were trying to say?
That's absolutely correct. In that particular case that you described, generally those buildings would be valued identically, and it would be based on the rent that that building would produce, and then that rent capitalized into a value. And a capitalization rate really is something that comes right out of the market. And when we see properties that sell, Again, we go out and we analyze those sales. We look at what the building sold for, the rent that it could produce, and it's just a mathematical calculation of what that capitalization rate is, or what that relationship is between net income and the value of a building that actually is evidenced by what happens in the market.
And the same would apply, for example, if one day the owner of the property said, you know what, I want to raise my rent 5 times above what I think I can raise the rent, and all of a sudden he's got 2 vacancies, each of those 2 buildings are vacant, he's still going to pay you the same amount in taxes, correct?
That's correct, because we're going to look at what the market rent should be for those buildings.
Right, right.
And that's why I'm trying to make that, a clear differentiation between business valuation versus real property valuation. And they're 2 very different approaches.
Yeah. So I just want to make that clear, that it's not based on the activity of the business or the income. It's just the fact of what type of real property it is and what zone. So my question, going back to the dollar bill, and I know this is probably, I'll just tell people, I like complex stuff for whatever reason, but I'll say that the stuff you do in your office is more than I think I would on Endeavor. So I appreciate, actually I want to just express that because I appreciate the complexity of our taxing system in here. So knowing that this dollar bill, the proportions of this dollar bill are averages across the county. You have an average representation of the county. That's not going to be mathematically the breakdown of everyone's property tax as far as distribution of those dollars or pennies, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So on that matter, so that I can assume that on that little button there in the center bottom where it says urban renewal 3.23 cents, that's factoring probably the averages of the urban renewal districts of the cities that the independently did and the county or whatever mixture. That's an average of the entire Clackamas County compilation.
It's the revenue that would be represented by all of the urban renewal districts of the cities and the counties.
Right. So I know that in 2011, I believe it was 2011, the Board of County Commissioners took an action to terminate the levy on the Town Center Urban Renewal District. And I know that there's one other urban renewal district just north of that that's still active. So on my tax bill in the Oak Grove, Milwaukee area, my tax bill had a $35 urban renewal thing on there. And I know that I'm not paying, it's confusing, you explained this before, I'm not paying $35 towards urban renewal. There's a law that said you now need to report what is diverted, and that's a representation of what's diverted towards urban renewal. But I presumed, correct me anywhere I'm wrong here, but I presume that by terminating that levy, that number would be, because now we're down to 1 urban renewal district and we're not collecting and no one's paying in that town center one, which is the big one. I was still surprised to see it on there, and I thought it would be a reduction, that it would somehow mathematically fall back to that, or are we still lingering from the past closure and ceasing the levy?
Well, the urban renewal amount that you would have been paying specifically that would have been going to the county has dropped significantly. And that should be represented if you went back and compared that amount on tax statements. The counties, or the amount of revenue that the county receives from its only remaining urban renewal plan area is dramatically lower than what it was when we had both the industrial area, the town center, and the North Clackamas revitalization area. So it's significantly down, but we do have still some areas that have very active urban renewal agencies, certainly Wilsonville being one of them, but a number of our cities, we still actually have a lot of urban renewal in the county. I think there are right now still 13 plan areas. Now, you don't necessarily see the impact of that on your statement. You only see the impact from the districts that help to contribute to some of those urban renewal areas that also provide service to you.
Yeah, and one last question, and if you don't have the answer, that's fine. You can email me what the answer is. But I saw on there sewer, I was surprised to see that. Do you know what particular sewer, and I know that's an average of the county again, but do you know if there is a sewer assessment on property tax somewhere in the county, where that's at?
I'm sorry, and where, Commissioner Saps, where did you see that?
On your dollar bill?
Oh, yeah, that's our service districts. So would be County Service 1.
I didn't know there was a property tax assessment on that. I thought it was a bond.
It is a bond.
I didn't know it was a property tax revenue bond.
Revenue bond.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Commissioner Bernard.
So I also have the privilege of getting another tax bill, which is personal property tax. How does that work? Is that the same kind of dollar thing? I've never even thought of asking this. So I turn in a sheet that says my equipment, my inventory, and then I pay taxes on that. How is that? Is that same dollar applied to that?
Yes, that would be correct. In Oregon's property tax system, they've chosen to tax business personal property. And this is property that a business owner would own and use in the course of his business that would generate revenue for him. And it is probably my least favorite area of property taxation, to be very honest, because business personal property is very difficult to value. And it's a depreciating asset. So consequently, in Clackamas County, all of our business personal property is actually right now being taxed on its real market value as opposed to a maximum assessed value that was set by Measure 50 at one time, and that's because it depreciates, so it's fallen below that maximum assessed value. And it's just a difficult tax to administer, and it's a difficult tax compliance-wise because it's done on a voluntary basis. I've had this discussion oftentimes with the Department of Revenue. If there were some other way to do this, my recommendation has always been we find a different way to do that because I just think it's a very difficult tax to manage. But to answer your question very specifically, it's valued at its real market value. It's taxed at the same rate as any other type of property.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important. I'm glad you put that in there, that the ad valorem rate for real property is the same thing as business property in this particular situation. Yeah, my compliments too on your town halls. Your predecessor, Ray Erlin, was out there, and I remember many times you and he in Wilsonville, and you'd always pull a pretty good crowd because of mainly the misunderstanding about how this tax system works. One of the most disconcerting things is that more and more we see a creeping up of assessed value to where it's near market value. And I remember when I started in real estate some 38 years ago, you could pretty much faithfully say that the assessed value was approximately 60 to 65% of market value. That has gone way up now for whatever reasons. The cap rate, I wanted to mention that, the capitalization rate, this is used by real estate brokers as well, especially and specifically in apartments especially, and definitely in commercial and industrial properties, as the cap rate helps establish a legitimate value based on rent and vacancy factors and other things like that. I think I mentioned everything. I had my little notes here, except for, you have seen many fluctuations, as I have, being in real estate, about values of property. They go up, they go down. It's fairly cyclical in a way, but not predictable, unfortunately. What we see now is bidding wars out there for property, and that jacks up the value of the property and certainly affects the new buyer as well. But what's most disconcerting is the rental market as well, where, you see what Portland, you've been reading those Oregonian articles, how they're raising the rents and forcing people out. Now,
I have said before, there's a law of supply and demand here. When you have less than a 2% vacancy rate in Portland, you got a problem. Yet Portland has promised to build 7,500 new apartments per year for the next 20 years to accommodate that growth. Probably all of those apartments without parking. So, you know, as we continue to see that happening, it'll continue to drive people out of Portland to, of course, the suburbs. I believe the middle class is being squeezed out of home ownership, and the prediction by Metro is that 20 years from now, only 37% of the people will be living in single-family homes, and the rest will be in multifamily. My personal opinion is that's not a place that you want to raise little Johnny. So, again, my opinion. But I am interested in this boom in real estate. I'm also very concerned, I expressed it many times, that Metro refuses to enlarge the urban growth boundary for 6 years, and then now for 3 more years. We're not keeping up with the bubble here, so to speak, that's been created in the housing market. So as we continue, the law of supply and demand says to see less and less properties, they're going to be more and more expensive. Bob, I appreciate your presentation today. Commissioners, do you have any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Great tie, Bob. Yeah, man. With the pumpkin look.
Well, I'd like to take one quick moment just to acknowledge not only my staff who work very hard, but we get a lot of cooperation from other agencies around the county. Your Department of Transportation, Planning and Permits, Facilities Management, they assist us with making sure that our drop boxes are out. Our technical service people do a really amazing job of keeping our systems up and available, and we really appreciate the work and the service that they provide us. And I also want to thank you, commissioners, for your support of our department. I think we've always had excellent support. We depend on that, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And now it's time for citizens communication. I'll call you up in twos. The first two are Les Poole and Lynn Kirshner.
Good morning, Les Poole, Clackamas County. Bob always does a great presentation. I've done a lot of complex things. Like Paul, there's no way I'd want his job. It gets too deep, and maybe it's the taxation system that could use some changes. 172,000 property tax statements set out. Property values up from $51 billion to $56 billion. I think the commissioners have got a lot of responsibility trying to manage this whole county and where the money's going. And we do see that money is up, and we also know that in the future we're going to see some leveling off. And when that happens, we need to be ready. So I do appreciate the fact that every year Bob comes in and answers questions. We used to not get questions answered here, but we get questions answered now. And I'd like to thank Richard Langdon for helping me make that happen. A couple of quick things. One is that there is a measure in Gladstone now, and here I am at the county talking about Gladstone. It would authorize the planning and potential construction of some civic buildings. We've got a leaky 1948 City Hall. We have a police station that doesn't even begin to meet the standards it needs to meet for Homeland Security. And we have the lingering issue of a library and combining Oak Grove and Gladstone's library. And I want to thank you folks for extending the time to the city of Gladstone. I'm now on the Planning Commission. We've got some people there that are working real hard to improve the city, and hopefully this library issue comes to a good conclusion and something that doesn't eat up urban renewal money like the original plan. Last thing I'd like to mention real briefly is about the Metro situation, and Chair Ludlow just alluded to it. And as you know, there's a petition going around to statewide measure to change the statute. And what it would do would give the authority back to the cities and counties to manage the growth boundary and to manage their density and population. It's not working with Metro. It hasn't been working. I started talking about this several years ago, and of course, a lot of people thought I was exaggerating, and now they think I'm brilliant. Well, I'm not brilliant. It is such simplicity to see that when you add another layer of government to an already complex process, and that layer of government, which is a regional government, has authority over the cities and counties, that there's bound to be political abuse, there's bound to be friction and complication and complexity. And I hope the county continues to hold its position that it needs a bigger remand, a bigger look at what happens with our future planning so we can get jobs here. And I hope that you folks continue to stand up to what Metro is proposing. Someone has to do it. And if it doesn't happen here, I don't see it happen in the city of Portland, where their latest flaky mayor just announced that he's not running for a second term. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You're next.
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's a light here.
Yeah.
Commissioner Savage.
I just want to just quickly respond on the whole Metro issue. I think we talked about again today or this week about, I think Commissioner Smith brought it up, our responsibility to Goal 9, and there's discussions about that, and we have to look at our state planning goals and say, well, and the questions I've been asked, who's responsible for Goal 9? And Goal 9 is economic development and basically centers around all the things you need to do for economic development. And land is part of that, is one of the building blocks of economic development, as is sewer, as is roads. And unfortunately, with the structure of this regional government, both roads and land are somewhat administered via grants or whatnot through Metro. And if we don't have the ability to have influence on that and make those decisions, then how can we be responsible for Goal 9? It's part of our system that is broken. And I don't think you need to be rude about it. We don't need to be nasty about it, but I think we need to articulate that argument and ask either the state government or the Metro government or all governments and say, how do we accomplish this? How do we put people back to work and an opportunity to prosper versus a glide path further into poverty that we already have? And that's and we have a shortage of jobs out there, and as the middle class keeps on evaporating, and I think it's really important that we figure out a way to tackle this constructively.
Yes, sir, you're now up.
Yes, I'm Len Kirshner. I'm from Rhododendron, Oregon. I would like to introduce you to Sue Gabriel of Sandy, Oregon.
Sue.
I'm not here to determine who owns the Sandy transfer station GPS signal, whether it's Clackamas County or Google or Yahoo. I'm just here to put the focus off the satellite onto the ground where there is a public safety issue because of this GPS signal, which leads you, even if you type in the Sandy transfer station proper address, which is on Canyon Valley Road, it will lead you directly to Sue Gabriel's porch. She's getting customers for, I guess, years, vendors, and what's unique is I'm also representing the owner of Tire Guy, a business who has to stop work to flag people down. And I'm also representing Todd Morena, the manager of the...
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I Googled the thing, and that's what he...
Googling it for your instructions.
The Sandy transfer station, which is owned by Clackamas County. So I'm representing Clackamas County to Clackamas County because he's tried for an extended period of time to get Google to correct this, and they're not going to correct it. So I'm here to get a road sign, a directional road sign that lets people from each direction know that Luzon is not the way to the Sandy transfer station. That's a Band-Aid, but I don't think you're ever going to get Google or Yahoo to rewrite their app. And do you want to add anything?
You got to come up if you're going to talk. Thank you.
Yeah, I've had, like he says, vendors. I've had people. It's a kind of a regular occurrence on the weekends. I just learned this last weekend that Tire Guy is actually catching people before they get back there. So there's even more than actually show up at my house. I'm a single person living there alone. I don't really feel comfortable with all these people coming back into my very private property. So a signage would go a long way towards keeping people away from the small community that's back there off of Luzon Lane.
Now, I don't use Google. I use WAZE, which is Waze. Some people prefer that one. But what it shows me is that you go past Luzon, and you
Yes, it's
take
the
a
next-
left on Canyon Valley Road.
If you were coming from Sandy, you should go past.
That's correct. I don't know what you use, but that is
WAZE,
correct.
it's a much better system, by the way.
Yeah.
And Google Maps is all messed up, and that's why I went to this system,
Yeah.
because they messed up in so many parts of Portland.
You're not going to educate the people not to use Google Maps.
Yeah.
And the guy at the transfer station has been very proactive with Google to try to get this solved, and it hasn't been. I went and reported it as the wrong address, and nothing's happened. So I'm not sure what the right way to get it addressed is.
He who expects nothing will not be disappointed. So expect Google will do nothing to correct the problem because they don't have a vested interest in Sue Gabriel's security. As the county commissioners, you do. She lives on Clackamas County property and she pays her taxes. So I look at this as a public safety issue. You should too. I don't know how much it would cost to put signage out there, but Tire Guy said he would be overjoyed to have signs on his property. And Todd said that the reason that couldn't be done, that he hadn't approached doing that, is because Clackamas County doesn't own property there. So there's Calamity Jane's that's there. They'd be for it, Tire Guy, and Dean's Auto.
And Calamity Jane's has great mushrooms. Mr. Krupp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick chat with our Director of Transportation and Development, who's in the audience this morning, and we will follow up and research this issue about the signage along the way.
Awesome.
So,
If you want to, now, you haven't left your information, but if you would.
It's on.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about the green card, and you have this, which is great. So I assume that somebody's going to be in contact with her as to the results of our study.
yes.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Savas.
I would like to add that I appreciate you bringing this forward. It's certainly a mechanism to get attention drawn to your plight, and I'm sure, unfortunately, that you're not the only one out there that is suffering from some kind of consequence of this. So it might, I always encourage people to either contact us individually or the administrator, and we'll help navigate you through the system.
Yeah, we actually did try to get someplace before we came here and decided this was probably the best venue because we weren't getting anywhere.
But I think of another venue, and we'll help you do that, maybe is get to your local state representative or state senator, because Google does have a presence in Oregon, and it would seem to me that they could implement something, or at least a hotline to help, or establish a hotline, or help establish one through Google to say, help these people out. It's your system, because they have a presence here in Oregon, so we have a little bit more influence than you may realize.
Nice. Awesome.
Okay.
Excellent.
Commissioner
Thank
Bernard.
you.
So we do not own the recycling center. That is owned by Waste Management, and Waste Management owns and controls. Just because it says Clackamas County Transfer Station doesn't mean Clackamas County owns it.
Okay.
So to be clear,
right.
we do not control that. We do not have any garbage services that I know in Clackamas County.
Yeah, just to add a little bit of humor, she did pay her property taxes this week in full, so she's paying for having her house on Clackamas County land.
I still don't understand the
don't own
Clackamas
the
County
land.
land part. I don't understand the Clackamas County land.
Just that we're here.
Because the public safety issue is on Clackamas County land. Of strangers coming up to her house with truckloads of garbage.
Chair?
Commissioner Savas.
So maybe we ask Barb Cartmel to explain that, because
I was going to do that.
there actually is a Clackamas County facility, and I've asked about it before, and so she might want to help clarify that, so.
Well, I thank you both for your testimony. We'll have Barbara come up and clear up whatever she can on this. Yeah, it is, definitely. Well, in fact, the handout given to us says waste management, and that's what it is. We do have a facility in the Clackamas area that by the December 31st will be no more. We own the land only, not the business operation. Barbara.
Thank you. Good morning. Just to help a little bit with the clarification, although you pretty much just did it, Chair Ludlow, we do indeed own the transfer station, and we lease it out then, the business aspect of it, to Waste Transfer.
Up there at the mountain?
We do, in Sandy,
Sandy?
just north of Sandy.
We own that property.
We do.
We do know that. It doesn't say that.
Yep, it's off Waterville Highway.
I know where it is.
You're right.
You're right.
We, you know, as commissioners, we don't always know what property we own, but glad to learn that.
You don't need
You don't need to come up, really. Commissioners,
I would like to apologize.
I have a seat then.
I would like to apologize on behalf of these people for not bringing this up earlier, but if this was a state government agency, I would be just griping that the reason people that don't come to these things is because they're deathly afraid of public speaking, and as a lifetime stutterer, I believe that public speaking should be mandatory in public education.
You've done just fine today. Commissioner Savas.
I covered it. All I want to do is call up.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. You made us aware of something we didn't know we had, for sure.
Well, I kind of knew that, but I didn't want to say anything.
All right. We have several more. We have Jose Fernandez and Mac Woods. Jose, it's been a few months since we've seen you. Welcome back. And Mac, it hasn't been as regular as usual, so welcome.
Thank you very much. As I spoke before, the last times that I've been here, I was discharged from the Navy in 1968 with a disability. My elbow was missing since 1967. The VA was supposed to install an elbow, but the doctor that was assigned to do that job went out and drowned deep-sea fishing. So it never got done, and I never complained about it, and now, 45 years later, there is nothing that can be done, so I will take this to my grave without ever getting the use of my arm. That's very disappointing to me. Disappointing to me also is the way that we veterans, the exemption that we're supposed to be getting is not coming to us. I have been paying property taxes here since the mid-60s, when the bill was passed. My current tax right now is $3,202.39. And the exemption that I'm getting is $16.07. If you think that I, as a 100% disabled veteran, appreciates Clackamas County for giving me $16 back, sir, that is crazy. I could use foul language, but I don't like to use foul language. But that is what I'm saying. What are they going to do? What are you guys going to do for us?
Jose, that is set by the state of Oregon. We promised the last time we talked that we would initiate Clackamas County legislation to raise that up. But understand this. This is set by the state of Oregon, not by us. I agree, and every commissioner up here has said the same thing. It's too low for disabled veterans. And it's set on, like you said, 50 years ago, home values. And the things have changed in 50 years. And the value has gone up and the exemption has not. So that's the best we can do on that. Commissioner Schrader.
So I want to thank you for bringing this up, because that was one of the reasons why I asked that question about the veterans exemption. So if this is a significant issue, I serve on the Veterans Committee of the Association of Oregon Counties. Regularly, Cameron Smith, who is one of the Marines who served in Fallujah, one of the bloodiest battles in Iraq, going door to door, getting shot at, and seeing his buddies die, is our new ODVA person. He's doing a great job. He's not Navy, but he's a Marine. So if this is a significant issue, I will make sure that I bring it up to our meeting, our next meeting in November that we're having with the Association of Oregon Counties as a legislative issue that needs to be fixed in Salem. Cameron will know. Cameron is the person to go through. There's a whole number of commissioners across the state that work on these issues, and there is not a legislative session that goes by since 2009 when I chaired the Veterans Committee that there is not significant legislation fixing these kinds of things. So that's the way to do it, because not only then will we be lobbying alone, we'll be having the body of our Veterans Services Committee with other commissioners, some of whom are veterans who have been deployed, Vietnam, so on and so forth, a mix of Navy, Marine, Army, and that kind of thing. So we'll check into that, and it will go directly to my buddy Cameron, who is a good young guy and is doing a brilliant job. So,
Thank you,
I don't know.
Commissioner.
So that's the way to do it.
Let me also apologize. Last week, my good hearing aid, which was about 60% able to improve my hearing, broke on me, and the one that I've got left is less than 40%, so I miss out quite a bit of what you're saying, but I appreciate at least your concerns that measure like mine, and I hope that you guys can convince the state or whoever is responsible for it to do it.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, we have a very abbreviated legislative session this year, and I think the closure date on any bills is nearing.
November.
Nearing. And we have the AOC conference coming up here in just a couple weeks, and I have committed to MAC, and I think Commissioner Schrader has as well, and all of us, I think we'll definitely pledge our efforts towards working on that very issue of somehow looking at an adjustment of that benefit for veterans. So, and there is a Veterans Committee of the AOC, so this is perfect timing, and it's kind of perfect timing along with the tax statements and the tax discussion this morning. So you got our attention. I think we're all committed to that, as the chair expressed.
Commissioner Bernard.
I just want to add that I believe that has been said as one of our priorities, but
Yeah.
it doesn't affect the state, it affects the county. So really, we accept that we're willing to give a discount, but the state is the one who allows us to give the discount. And so I think, it's a priority for us, I can assure you.
Thank you, Jose. We remember your last visit, and somebody else named MacArthur Woods.
Chair Ludlow, I am MacArthur Woods. I live on Maxburg Road. I've been a taxpayer in Oregon since 1968. And did you know that you don't know what you don't know? That don't only apply to you, but it applies to us, me. However, by the grace of God, I still have memory going back to 1968 when we did not have TriMed. We had Rose City Transit. They wanted to raise the rates by 1 nickel. Some of you can remember that. They were self-supporting, money in, money out. However, the politicians got involved, and they took away Rose City Transit and started TriMed. And even those politicians in those days, my memory's still good, and I ain't talking about just back to a couple or 3 years ago when we were voting on the light rail issue where all these TriMed buses are running around today empty and nobody rides the cotton picking train. They made the issue back in 1968 to take over, started TriMed, and to get rid of, the politicians even commented, I can remember, to get rid of them ugly train tracks downtown Portland because they were causing so much problem with the traffic and the sight of it. So they dug up the train tracks. I'm talking about the trolley train tracks in Portland Metro. So what it is, remember back when we had the Long Range and Tonto movies? Tonto said to Long Range, they call him Kemosabe, Kemosabe, white men speak with forked tongue. We have that today with politicians. And we just listened to one this morning. As we're coming into this next election, we need to learn who to vote for and vote them out. I want to compliment the people right here that's doing these videos for the job they well do. And those videos, the DVDs, do not forget. I remember when we were just voting to spend a whole bunch of money. Look how much the governor spent on Revise America. That's taxpayer dollars for the whole cotton-picking state. Remember how much money we spent on the CRC, taxpayer dollars. Money in, money out. We got to learn who to vote for and vote, and vote them money grabbers out. Simple, short and sweet, money in, money out. We quit wasting all this money, we'll have plenty of money for Clackamas County. But I want to represent the veterans since I'm one of them, over 20 years continuous active duty. I could write a book. I'll talk to you more about that, but you hear these people talk about what they're doing for veterans while they're doing nothing. And I'm going to bring it to a halt. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm talking about you politicians as we learn to vote these money grabbers out. I'm sorry. I'd like to invite anybody to go over here to Clackamas County Tax Assessor's office. It's the same in every cotton pick in one of the counties, 36 in Oregon. Sorry for the rover run there.
That's all right, Mac.
It's time to get our act together and get them devils out of wasting our taxpayer money for the veterans. It's a drop in the bucket like Mr. Jose right here. He can't work, and they want to put him out of a house and home by raising the taxes on him while they give him nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you, Mac. And now, Mr. Krupp, we have a public hearing.
We certainly do. We have two on the schedule for this morning. The first one involves a board order regarding the transfer of jurisdiction of a county road to the city of Happy Valley. This is a portion of Vradenburg Road. I'm going to invite Mr. Rick Maxwell up to the dais to give you a staff report and recommendation.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rick Maxwell. I'm with the Engineering Division of the Department of Transportation and Development. Today we have before you a resolution from the City of Happy Valley. They request transfer of jurisdiction from the county to the city of the portion of Vradenburg Road that is within the Happy Valley city limits. This request has been thoroughly discussed by staff of both jurisdictions. Transferring jurisdiction of Vradenburg Road within the city limits will improve the efficiencies and coordination of development, maintenance, and public service requests. This road is entirely surrounded by Happy Valley. Notice for today's action has been published for 4 consecutive weeks in the Clackamas Review, and this request is consistent with the county's practice and policy of partnering with local jurisdictions to provide the necessary government services at the least cost for our citizens. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing, and there is a card here by Mr. Michael Robinson.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Ludlow, members of the Commission. My name is Michael Robinson. I'm a land use attorney representing Scouters Mountain LLC. That's the company that's purchased the Boy Scout Ranch. They're doing the development that's in front of the City Council now. We support the resolution and the action by the board to transfer the jurisdiction. And we agree with the staff report, and I'm here simply to tell you that and offer to answer any questions that you might have of me. Thank you for your time this morning.
Commissioner Smith.
I was out at Scouters Mountain recently for a Boy Scout event, a retiring of the United States flag, and it was quite a moving ceremony. That is such a great location for our Boy Scout camp, but I'm also a business person and I understand growth and development. What kind of development's going in there?
It's primarily single-family homes, although 41% of the area is being retained as open space. We're coordinating with, I hesitate to say it, Metro, on open space and trails. We're also implementing the city's acknowledged transportation system plan to construct necessary streets and construct necessary trails.
There's quite some nice timber out there. And you know, not all timber is nice. Just because they call it Douglas fir doesn't mean it's wonderful, wonderful. But there are certain sections of trees out there that are just magnificent and stately. And I'm hoping maybe that's part of the plan. But don't want to interfere, obviously. I would imagine in this area the houses would be quite expensive.
I think you heard a good report from your assessment office about values, but we hope that it reflects the kind of quality of development that Happy Valley is known for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
You know, with 1,400 miles of road that we're responsible for, we're always happy to give away that responsibility to anybody that wants it. So anybody watching wants to take over responsibility on our roads, bring it on, right? Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Close the public hearing and ask for the motion.
I move we approve the board order accepting the transfer of jurisdiction from Clackamas County to the city of Happy Valley for a portion of Vradenburg Road, County Road number 1831, and this is a really tough decision.
Yeah. Second. All right, motion by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Savas. Further discussion? All right, it's time for the poll. Mary?
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. And now, a second one, Mr. Krupp.
Yes, this is a consideration of resolution for a supplemental budget. I'm going to invite Diane Padilla, our very capable budget manager, up to the front dais to give you a report on these routine changes to our county budget.
Yes, good morning. This is a request for budget changes of greater than 10% or budget reductions. It's the first for fiscal year 15-16. It falls under the category of changes that require that a summary of the actions to be taken be published, and that was accomplished in the Lake Oswego Review on October 22nd. As is almost always the case with these first budget changes of the year, they involve either totally or in part a truing up of fund balance to recognize the actual carry forward to the year, either greater or less than what was estimated and budgeted. The first request is from the Social Services Fund. In this case, they're decreasing their budget and realigning due to loss of state funding for development and disability programs. And the amount is a reduction of $2,016,859. The Juvenile Fund is recognizing prior year revenue, and in this case additional grant revenue from the Criminal Justice Community Drug Court Program, and budgeting to add 2 positions. This would be an increase of $935,589. The Clackamas Broadband Utility Fund is again recognizing fund balance and also connection fee revenue and appropriating it for capital outlay. An increase of $857,101. The Cable Administration Fund is recognizing lower than anticipated beginning fund balance and realigning the budget accordingly. It's a reduction of $8,460. And finally, the Telecommunications Services Fund is recognizing additional fund balance and budgeting it for phone system server and other phone system upgrades at the DSB, the Development Services Building. And this would be an increase of $304,062. The total net change to the county budget as a result of the increases and decreases would be a net increase of $71,933. Are there any questions I could answer?
No. So I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. No. Close the public hearing. And so I entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution for Clackamas County supplemental budget greater than 10% for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Second.
So the motion by Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Smith. And anybody who watches this, please understand this happens every year. Is that right, Diane?
Oh, and it'll happen again in December.
Yeah. It's an accounting thing. We just love bean counting, for sure. All right, any further discussion? Mary?
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
And now I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for the Regional Older Adult Behavioral Health Coordinator. Under our Department of Transportation and Development, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Happy Valley for reimbursement of consultant services related to the update to the 172nd, 190th Corridor Management Plan. And also a board order declaring a portion of Audie Road to be a county road, number 3442. Under our Finance Department, a resolution for a Clackamas County supplemental budget less than 10% for fiscal year 2015-2016. A resolution for Clackamas County for budgeting of new specific purposes revenue for fiscal year 2015-2016. And a resolution for Clackamas County transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2015-2016. Under elected officials, approval of fiscal year 2015-2016 services contract between Clackamas County District Attorney's Office and the Children's Center of Clackamas County. Approval of an intergovernmental grant agreement between the Clackamas County District Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice for the 2015 State Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Grant Program Award. And approval of 2015-2017 Victims of Crime Act and Criminal Find Account Non-Competitive Program Grant for the District Attorney's Office. Under Public and Government Affairs, a board order approving an extension of the cable television franchise with Comcast of Oregon 2, Inc., Comcast of Tualatin Valley, Inc., and Comcast of Illinois, Ohio, and Oregon, LLC. And our development agency, a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose of acquisition of right-of-ways and easements for the Audie Street Realignment Project and authorizing negotiation for eminent domain actions. And that will conclude our consent agenda.
All right, commissioners want to pull any of those items? I'll entertain a motion.
We approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Savas, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? All right, Mary.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. You know what, while we were at the town hall last night, I saw somebody with the unmitigated audacity to go up to Don Krupp and tell him he wrote a great article in the last Citizen Review. I know that's going to be mentioned today because he loves this stuff, but he did write a really good article this last Citizen News Time. Mr. Krupp, would you like to explain other victories?
Say that again?
Or just go ahead and go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll go through the other victories then. But I will say this, I owe much of that article to the fine staff we have in public and governmental affairs. They help put these articles together for me, and so we work together on it. And I am always surprised to hear positive feedback from people in the community when they've read these articles. I hear more about it than you might know. It's very rewarding. So thank you to Gary and his staff for putting those things together. While I've got you here on my report, I did want to acknowledge that in the audience is Sarah Brown. She is a longtime member of the staff from the District Attorney's Office. Today is her last official day, which means this is the last time she will officially appear before this Board of County Commissioners, unless she decides to come in on citizen comments sometimes in the future and share a few words with us. But I wanted to acknowledge her fine work that she's done over the years. I certainly have enjoyed getting to know her and work with her over the course of the past couple of years that I've been here at Clackamas County. So I just wanted to thank her and acknowledge her.
Congratulations, Sarah, on behalf of the board.
And with that also in mind, a little later today, we have an appreciation for Ellen Crawford, who is retiring officially at the end of this month, which is actually, today will be her last official true working day. She will be helping us out after she retires to kind of keep things together during the transition while we're in the process of recruiting for what would be a new director of our juvenile department. But again, she's been a tremendous partner to work with here during the time that I've joined Clackamas County. I'm sorry to see her depart. I know she's looking forward to the fruits and opportunities that retirement brings, including something related to, I think, grandkids are kind of in the picture here as well. So I want to acknowledge that.
Well, and by the way, she comes from Fossil, Oregon, and so she has very close ties there. I thought she'd mentioned she's going back.
Yes. So I've got a few other pieces of good news. One is I'm pleased to report this month that our Public Health Division of our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department was notified we are receiving a $250,000 grant from Kaiser Permanente for a project that's intended to reduce food insecurity and increase healthy eating habits among high school students. So our Public Health Department will work with 3 high schools in Estacada, Oregon City, and Sandy to help implement the program, which will help students assess and improve the availability of affordable and healthy food through policy, systematic, and environmental changes. Then I also wanted to acknowledge Philip Mason, who is a policy analyst in our Public Health Division. He's received the Emerging Leader Award at the Oregon Public Health Association conference earlier this month. He has coordinated the Public Health Division's preparation of its public health accreditation efforts, which resulted in full accreditation in 2014. And he's also helped to bring forward performance management tools and trainings to our public health managers here in Clackamas County. So a word of acknowledgement and appreciation to Philip for his fine work. And then finally, I just wanted to share that last Saturday in Welch's, Clackamas County co-sponsored its 4th annual Flood of Information. This drew about 70 people who wanted to learn more about how to prepare for the upcoming winter weather conditions and emergencies on Mount Hood, as well as the surrounding flood-prone areas. The workshop featured representatives from the National Weather Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, and an open house on the Lola Pass Road Access Alternatives Study. So we saw a fair number of attendees. There were many good questions asked, and the evaluations we received shows that the event was a success. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Krupp. Time for Commissioners' Communications. We'll start with Commissioner Bernard.
Boy, it's been a while since I was first. I think I was.
I have Mary rotate these, so thank you, Mary.
It's been a while. So first off, let's put the dog up because I always forget it. So this is Roscoe. There he is. He's looking for a best friend. He's happy, friendly, and attentive. He's an English Bulldog mix. He can't wait to start a new life with someone like you. Ooh. So please contact our Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-655-8628 or visit the website www.clackamas.us/dogs. This was kind of an idea that I had, and I think it's been very successful. We found a dog a month ago, and that dog has found a home, so that's great news. One thing I thought that people should, when they look at the property tax issue, Paul suggested that the dollar go back up. I don't need that to go back up. But oftentimes people say, well, look at all the taxes I'm paying the county. I think it's important to note that we get 18.42 cents out of every dollar you pay. Most of the money goes to the school districts, community colleges, and so when somebody says we're getting $600 million or whatever, we aren't getting $600 million. The tax assessor may collect that, but all that money does not go to us. And I think we really do a good job. And this year we added $50,000 to our small grants program, which we approved on Tuesday. And this program really, I think, especially when you talk about the $250,000 food security program, that's kind of been our focus of what these dollars are supposed to go to. Right now we have 70% of the kids that go to school are on free or reduced lunch. I mean, it's terrible. And many families on weekends don't have any food at all. So we're really trying to focus on making sure that they get the food they need. Last night we had a town hall meeting up at in Welch's. Attendance was, I'd say, fairly poor. But maybe I was thinking today that, you know, last night was one of those nights, I think you counted 3 questions. Yeah. The rest were comments. Maybe we ought to call it a listening post and limit the time, but listen to, you know, ask people for their concerns. How can we help you? And listen to those. I think your issue about the Google is something that I hadn't heard. We learned today that we do own the land the garbage dump is on. We don't manage it, or the recycling facilities on, which I never knew. And so that's important. One thing was mentioned about the train and light rail. They're 2 years over their projection on the orange line already. If you're not there by 8, there's a parking issue. Frankly, I think the issue that needs to be addressed is more parking availability. And in some cases, we may have to look at parking permits in those areas. I know that in Milwaukee, we talked about it at one time, and lots of people suggested this would occur, and it has indeed occurred. The light rail project actually came out $20 million less than projected. Federal government wanted their money back. So we do get a portion of that back, as you mentioned, at $2 million, but that's a ways out too, right?
2019.
2019. I hope we're charging interest. But, you know, we need to look at pressuring TriMet to add more floors. That structure was built so that could accommodate more parking. And that's something that I know that Metro TriMet tried really hard to get that out of that $20 million, along with the parking station down at Tacoma. So that is something I think we need to work on. Also in Milwaukee, the Park and Ride, which they built at the old Southgate Theater, is empty. It's got, I went by it, one day it had 2 cars, one day it had 3 cars. So I guess TriMet is looking at maybe some shuttle buses to take people to the park, to the train station, and so they are looking at that. If not, they ought to sell that for industrial land, frankly. It's a good spot for an industrial site, and if they don't figure out a way, then I think it should be sold or given to the city of Milwaukee or Clackamas County or something for some potential industrial development. I also attended this morning Greater Portland, Inc., which is a group that looks at economic development around the metro region. And one important thing, I sat next to the head of the Port of Portland, Bill. Nobody is looking for large lots anymore. 25 to 25 acre lots is what everybody's looking for now. Now, we had one search for 100+ acres in the state of Oregon, was the report they gave today. Part of the reason, and somebody else described it, a commercial realtor said that people don't look here anymore because we haven't made that a priority. So they don't look here anymore. They're looking to the south, where an issue you have always described. You know, we could probably get anybody here if we wanted to give them the world. And I remember when Hillsborough brought somebody in and gave them the world, and they didn't last a year or two. And I thought, then it took a year or two to get them back, get somebody back in that building, not paying property tax that whole time. That was a risky venture. And I agree with John on this, that, you know, giving them some incentive to come is a great idea, but it has to be limited. It just can't be, you know, the taxpayers have to pay that bill anyway. And frankly, I think a business should do that. But Bill from the Port of Portland says he gets lots of people in looking for 5 to 25 acre lots. And just 100-acre lots are no longer even considered in Oregon, as a matter of fact, unless you maybe get to Eastern Oregon where they have limitations too. The people who are on that committee, these are not just you know, people who have opinions. These are people who have facts. A commercial real estate firm, Hillsborough. And an interesting thing is Hillsborough has 50 and 100-acre lots. But because they're stuck in 50 to 100 acre, if somebody wants 25 acres, they can't divide it up. And that's a problem. So somehow we got to look at how we can divide up some of those lands. But even in Canby, some industrial sites they've I always said that, you know, the problem is you're willing to take a reservation for industrial land, but we let it go. Well, Canby recently had some industrial land that they let go to housing. So, I mean, it always looks good when you can get that new tax dollars, but it also takes away from that industrial land base. And property owners, this is a real big challenge. You know, I'm not going to tell a property owner, no, you can't make more money. You know, I want you to, you know, do what you can, do the best you can, and I may not hold you to holding that reservation if you have an opportunity to do otherwise. So there are some, I think we've talked about this before, we need to work on Oregon's land use laws, which in many ways are good, but in many ways there are a lot of problems. I think that regional, you know, when we look at needs for industrial land or housing in the region, rather than look at sub-regional, for example, Clackamas County, we have a different problem than other parts of the region. So we need to look at sub-regional needs, because we certainly cannot send people out to Hillsborough to go to a job. Just driving to Portland this morning from Canby, by the way, it's about 10 minutes to work here. It took me almost an hour to get to Portland. And I thought about hopping on light rail, but I needed to get back for this meeting. Otherwise, I would have. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I'd love to respond in detail to Commissioner Bernard's. You know, I appreciate you bringing that forth up. You know, we had a representative from the state of Oregon at our EDC meetings on a regular basis, and so the process for how inquiries are made through Business Oregon and through the state are a little bit different. So the gauge or the monitor, if you will, on that isn't necessarily any jurisdiction, including the Port of Portland. So if you really want the straight scoop and the process for how that's done, you actually talk to Business Oregon, and I think you get a much different perspective on the needs and the ask. You're only going to be inquired upon if you have something in your inventory that is ideal to that, suited to that particular business or that search, what they're looking for. And the Port of Portland may not be it, but maybe a larger lot somewhere else in the region near an interstate or near a state highway might be more suitable, or near, or has availability of water, or has, you know, a certain characteristics about it. But having that said, what I wanted to talk about a little bit was this is kind of a shout out too, but an effort, there was a community meeting in Oak Lodge last week and another one on Tuesday night surrounding some issues with crime and flop houses and a number of things going on in the community in North Clackamas County, the Oak Grove, Milwaukee area specifically. And I want to do a shout out to Deputy Karen Moss, Deputy Joel Manley, Deputy Mark Nicolai for their innovation and coming up with an idea on creating a chronic nuisance action strategy. And I was just wondering if the board would be interested in maybe at a future meeting bringing them in and recognizing them for that. I think it'd be great. I think what they came up with, that innovation, what they came up with was great. Also a shout out to Assistant District Attorney Bill Stewart for his activities, and he's probably well noted for the Overland Park problem they had years ago that they straightened out. Heard a lot of comments, a lot of issues came up about quality of life. It's no matter what topic we have or issue we're facing in the county, quality of life is a big factor. And again, I just wanted to recognize them for that, and maybe we can do that in a more formal way in the future. I did want to talk a little bit about, I didn't plan on talking about this, but Commissioner Bernard brought this up as well, and that was the parking issue along the light rail line. You know, I started following this in the late 90s, and it was primarily a Milwaukee-driven process. It wasn't ever intended to come in out of the city of Milwaukee, but to the city of Milwaukee. And parking, whether it was transit, whether it was bus rapid transit, whether it was light rail or not light rail, but parking at the theater site was promised so many times, and that investment in the parking in Clackamas County has never, why it's never come to fruition. Here it is 16, 17 years later, and we still, that was talked about putting a parking structure at Southgate for just the existing bus service. And here we have this great icon, I guess. It's all in the eyes of the beholder, but a lot of money spent and pride taken on this great bridge going across the Willamette River called the Tillicum Crossing, and this great showpiece centered in the city of Portland. And we were originally promised a larger parking structure at Park Avenue so that we wouldn't be burdened with parking. And here it is today that we were shortchanged, I guess, and now we have the burden that we really didn't want. And we hopefully they will do something to augment that, but obviously the theater site is not ideally located any longer because the light rail station's north of that or south of that. So, but I'm just a little bit disappointed that that was actually cut back on, and I'm hoping that TriMet can come up with a solution. But we were promised not to be burdened, and now we're burdened by this, and frankly, it's creating a problem in my neighborhood and for a lot of other folks. So hopefully there's a solution coming forth. But I just want to I recall that that's been an issue for a long time, and we had just ended up short.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, our town hall meeting last night, we had about 26 people, not counting staff. Always tend to count because just, you know, it helps me do that. A lot of issues were raised about our natural resources. And I think, you know, the Mount Hood area, the whole recreation, hunting and fishing and skiing and biking is a wonderful, wonderful resource. So we have people come from all around. And when you have low snow event years like we've had in the last couple of years, it made me wonder, well, how do those snow resorts, those ski resorts, keep the lights open because they have no income in the winter? And I wonder about their payments and their loan payments and that sort of thing. So they really developed a summer recreation opportunity up there with mountain biking. And it's really big. And my hat's off to those people for really thinking beyond just a one season of an income revenue. And Clackamas County Tourism Department has partnered with the BLM on putting paths in for the biking. So it was very heartwarming to see that. There's people working very hard up there to not only maintain the quality of their life, their environment, but you know, allowing people to go out and experience it. And once you live in that area or go out and experience it, you really develop appreciation for what it can offer, and it makes you want to just keep things clean and wonderful. This week, I went out to the city of Molalla, and they were preparing for preparedness for disasters, and it was an earthquake. And we have a really great staff here at Clackamas County who is in the emergency management area. Commissioner Ludlow and I went back for training in May back to Maryland and became certified, and it was really good. My hats off to Nancy Bush and Terry Poet for putting on this learning opportunity for the city of Molalla and its citizens. And even though it was in Molalla, we had people from Estacada, Canby, and Milwaukee come out to experience it. And many times for these folks, it was the first time hearing what they needed to do to prepare. Mayor Deborah Rogge was in attendance, as the police chief Ron Dulcic, paramedic Wakefield from the Molalla Fire Department, and it was all held at the Grace Lutheran Church and the LDS Church. We used their facilities to do what we needed to do, passed out information, gave kits, and if we can educate one person, and then that person spreads information to their friends and their family and their friends, it really does work. Halloween is this weekend, and for those of you not going trick-or-treating, staying home, you can meet the youngins at the door. But with that in mind, I want to turn our attention maybe to Christmas trees. If you've traveled across the county, Christmas trees are currently being harvested, although it seems really early. But the Mount Hood National Forest Service has opened up their personal use tree and bough permits, and they're available at the Mount Hood National Forest starting November 2nd. They sell for $5 each, and the limit of 5 permits per household. You can call the number 503-668-1776, and the locations are Barlow Ranger District, Clackamas River, Hood River, Zigzag, Ty Valley, and then a whole bunch of Ace Hardware in Sandy, Hoodland Thriftway in Sandy, Tumalum Lumber in Hood River, and the Estacada Tackle Shop. So all those places are available, or go online to reserve your Christmas tree permit, and maybe you can start walking through the woods, seeing what kind of tree you want this year. Thank you.
That's a good idea. Commissioner Schrader.
Well, let's start with arts and culture activities in the county, because I know I have an overhead for that. And I'm waiting for Mary. What are we at? Whoops. And it went away. Ah, there we go. So the first one is Zombie Garden Day in honor of Halloween. Make a zombie garden, dress in zombie rags, complete with spooky face paint, and munch on scary snacks in the children's garden. That is going to be tomorrow, October 30th, from 9 to 4 p.m. at the Lusher Farm in Lake Oswego. Estacada, one of my favorite communities, is having a Festival of the Fungus kickoff. Learn skills for the woods, compass orientation class, and mushroom identification class. Registration is required. That is Saturday, October 31st. The compass class is from 9 to 11 a.m. Mushroom identification, noon to 2 p.m., and it will be at the Estacada Public Library. If you'd like to know about any arts event that is happening here in the county, the website is clackamasartsalliance.org. It's a good way to celebrate Halloween, have some fun, and learn about different areas of the county. Commissioners, I do have a few things I wanted to mention today. I did want to let you know I've recently been reappointed to by Governor Brown to the Governor's Regional Solution Team. Why is that critical? Well, the Regional Solutions Team, under the leadership of Chair Bill Wyatt, was actually responsible for pulling together the regional support of all our communities in the area for the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, and instrumental in moving forward with our previous governor and our current governor, Governor Brown, for the $5 million we originally got for that project, and now including the next $7 million that we got this past legislative session. That continues to be a high priority project on the Regional Solutions Team for our county and for the whole area, and I'm very glad to be reappointed to that because I'll be continuing that work with those folks. Second thing I want to mention is very important. It's the Investing in Manufacturing Community Partnership. This is a program that we have been selected for. We get to work with the folks at the federal level. It is actually a partnership to revolutionize the way federal agencies leverage economic development funds. What does that mean? What that means in simple words is you get all the agencies in one room, they look at the project and they say, yes, we can help fund this. The reason why this is so important to Clackamas County as well as to our colleagues throughout the state is one of the main initiatives is cross-laminated timber, which is a new technology and methodology For secondary processing of timber projects, Oregon State University is working on this very diligently. They are part of this partnership. The main piece we are working on, or I hope to be working on and continue to work on with my colleagues at the ONC counties, is the fact that the supply for this kind of secondary processing could be based in Oregon, should be based in Oregon. We could become the world leaders of providing the supply chain to make sure we have the product for secondary processing of cross-laminated timber. It's green, believe it or not. The environmental community likes it as well, but we all have to understand with liking these green technologies is also going to come the opportunity for environmentally stable forest management and harvest of our timbers. The low-hanging fruit at this point in time is the ONC counties and the BLM lands. That has been somewhat of a struggle at the national level. Both Schrader, let's say DeFazio and Wyden came forward with a wonderful compromise to give certainty to the harvest on these particular lands. It did not get as much leverage as it should have in the Senate, and we continue to work on that. So that's a wonderful statewide initiative. I also wanted to remind people that our Economic Development Commission is in the process of finishing its executive summary. They had a target business outreach list comprised of companies who fit within the county's key economic clusters: advanced manufacturing, professional business services, wood products, wholesale trade, trucking, advanced technology, healthcare, food and beverage processing, agriculture and food production, nurseries and greenhouses, software and media production. They actually went out to targeted businesses, business to business, to pull back the information of what those businesses need. Because in order to help them expand, in order to help them stay in this county, we need to be on the ground asking them exactly what they need. I'm proud of this because when I was first a commissioner in 2003, we were not doing that. And I made it my duty with my dear friend Shelley Perini to visit as many manufacturing and other businesses in this county. I am proud of that because now it has been institutionalized with an Economic Development Advisory Board that is actively pulling together initiatives for job growth, retention, and expansion in this county. So more will become of that. One of the clusters I mentioned was software and media production. I am currently working with the community college, our economic development team, looking at a site essentially to pull together an area where this digital media and gaming piece can have an incubator. That means businesses that want to go in there have a place to go, have a place to find the expertise, and have the place to expand. It's not just about gaming, and it's not just about Super Genius or Funnelbox and Dark Horse Comics. Now with the new digital technologies, there are also medical applications. And now these people who work in digital media are starting to connect to the companies that actually build and produce and make medical technologies. It's a very intriguing way to go, and we have a chance to make this a key cluster, we hope potentially in Wilsonville. Trying to think if there is anything else I wanted to say today. Oh, in terms of this media piece, there is a template for that. In Canada, there is an accelerator and incubator program for digital technology and gaming. And so we are looking about how they pulled that together to actually emulate that and make that happen here in Clackamas County. So with that, I'll stop. I do want to thank my colleagues for covering last night. I was a little bit late because of a meeting with our administrator at the event last night. And what I took away with that was essentially we have a very robust economy in terms of tourism, and I also think that as a result of the fine work that our tourism board does in terms of making recreation a primary focus of getting heads on beds, people to visit our area and spend money here. So that was a good piece for me to bring home, that we are doing a good job. So thank you, commissioners, and Commissioner Ludlow, I think you're going to wrap us up.
Indeed. Well, I kind of like to always synopsize what we've done this previous week. I often tell people, not all work is done at these business meetings. The majority of our work is done on Tuesdays when we have policy study sessions. To recap what we did, Martha and I met with the Economic Development Commission's future chair and existing chair, and we talked a little bit about what their next year's charge would be. The community meeting that Paul mentioned, that both the Commissioner Bernard and I and Paul attended, will, in a sense, be reported on here several weeks from now when I put on the agenda these problem drugs, slum houses, everything else that really, actually it was identified in the McLaughlin corridor, both east and west, that just in that area alone, there's 25 of these abandoned houses. And the landlords, which are oftentimes banks, just don't care what happens to the neighborhood. And I'm looking forward to the professionals coming in and talking to us about their ideas and how we could stiffen the fines and move these things along and not take several years, unfortunately, remove these people from their illegal possession of homes. We had a land use hearing where we approved Gobi Hardwood to come into Aurora. Now, if you know where the Top of Hill restaurant is from in between Aurora and Canby, it's a great little restaurant, by the way. The fried chicken is outstanding. But that's where they're going to locate. It's going to be very interesting. They have electric, not diesel saws, and they reclaim wood, not dissimilar to what Commissioner Schrader was saying earlier. They reclaim wood that normally wouldn't be utilized, and they sell slab wood that's used for recreating instruments, old black powder gun stocks for people. And he bragged when he gave testimony, the owner, that one of the slabs that he sells is now a coffee table in Beyonce's house. So it's actually high quality, probably high priced slab stock, but welcome to Clackamas County for Gobi Hardwood. We had the town hall, which was mentioned, and we've got to figure out how to make this sustain, not dissimilar to what Commissioner Bernard was saying, whether it's a listening post or whatever, but when you get 27 people in a room, that's wonderful, except for the cost. We televise these things, and so we had a lot of staff up there, and I would like to have bigger crowds, but the only way to attain bigger crowds is to be controversial. So I guess we might have to pass on them. This next week, I'll be meeting with the chairs of Multnomah and Washington counties, which I often do, and talk about issues that are important to the region. And I've got a couple to mention. Not to say I always get buy-in from Deborah Kafori and Andy Dyke. The home builders housing forecast will be next week. Also, several commissioners, including myself, will be at the Veterans Pancake Breakfast in Gladstone next week and the Gladstone Veterans Parade. We awarded the small grants, which was mentioned, which was Commissioner Bernard's original idea. We also reconfirmed our commitment to the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. This is going to take a while, and it was originally estimated by Metro that the River Walk would cost $35 million. They're starting to accumulate where that money will come from. I will assure you that not much is coming from Clackamas County. We are partners, but not owners in the project, and our Business and Community Services is really involved in this problem because let's face it, the River Walk, I don't believe in that kind of money thrown at something like that. However, it will become a magnet for tourism. It will become a magnet for some kind of commerce to occur on that property that's been sitting fallow for so many years. We agreed to send the Soils Department, this is the people who investigate whether you are allowed to have a septic system on your property, from WES, which is Water Environmental Services, to appropriately our Department of Transportation and Development, because that's where the permits are obtained, and we think that was a very good move. Finally, I want to end with this. It was a quote from Alan Cohen. "Those who love you are not fooled by mistakes you have made or dark images you hold about yourself. They remember your beauty when you feel ugly, your wholeness when you are broken, your innocence when you feel guilty, and your purpose when you are confused." Ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before the Commission this day, this meeting is adjourned.